I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Mednis, famous chess author and teacher, and this volume of his masterclass series.
Hello, I'm Mednis. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Today I would like to continue our discussion on the basic principles of chess. In tactics, the action moves quickly. Moreover, in the majority of positions that I shall be discussing, there will be lots of pieces and pawns on the board. Therefore, it will take some time to become familiar with the positions. Stop the tape to do so. Restart when you are ready to move on. An old saying claims that chess is 99% tactics. Of course, this is an exaggeration. Yet the point is an important one. Without the knowledge of the major tactical motives in all parts of the game, your results will be poor. Tactics is a word easy to explain, yet difficult to elegantly define. It refers to an immediate, specific, short-term opportunity to attack something, often involving a sacrifice and generally leading to a forced sequence of moves. This tape will show you what tactical opportunities to look for, as well as what to look out for. The specifics will readily make clear what the abstract definition of tactics is about. The opening phase is generally considered to take in the first 10-15 moves. For the purposes of this part, I shall consider those situations where at least one side has not castled. When both sides have already castled, the tactical themes are basically the same as in middle game play, and will be therefore considered in that part. In the early opening, development is at a low level, and this apparently leads to a careless feeling that nothing bad can happen. In fact, almost the opposite is true. Because there is little mobilization of forces, defensive support is rather limited. Therefore, the early opening offers excellent prospects for unexpected tactical shots. A white queen check on h5 or a black queen check on h4 is the single most dramatic tactical opportunity.
I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Mednis, famous chess author and teacher, and this volume of his masterclass series.
Hello, I'm Mednis. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Today I would like to continue our discussion on the basic principles of chess. Today's topic is Rook and Pawn endgames. Of all endgames, the most common ones involve rooks and pawns. Therefore, for the practical player, the most important endgame is the Rook endgame. Of course, a considerable amount of specific technical knowledge is required to play this endgame. However, there is one overriding principle. This principle is so important that just by following it, you will, in the vast majority of cases, be choosing the correct way. The magic principle is activate the rook and keep it active. It doesn't matter whether you are trying to win or hoping to draw. This principle applies to both sides. The endgame of rook versus pawn usually results from a queening race, where one side has been forced to sacrifice its rook for the enemy pawn. The following guidelines apply. Guidelines to win. Both the rook and king must be able to cover some square which the pawn must still cross. The king should quickly head back. The rook is usually placed best on the 7th or 8th rank, acting on the rear. Guidelines to draw. To have any drawing chances at all, the defending king must be at least on the 4th rank. Otherwise, the rook decisively cuts the king off from assisting in the further advance of the pawn. Generally, the pawn should be advanced ahead of the king. The correct execution of these principles will now be demonstrated. Position 1 is from a master game, with white on a move.
I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Mednis, famous chess author and teacher, and this volume of his masterclass series.
Hello, I'm Mednis. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Today I would like to continue our discussion on the basic principles of chess. Because it is the middle game that I shall be discussing, there will be lots of pieces and pawns on the board. Therefore, it will take some time to become familiar with the positions. Stop the tape to do so. Restart when you are ready to move on. The human mind is obviously not suited for doing an unlimited number of brute force calculations. Yet, the increased speed of play, characteristic of current tournament practice, requires the ability to make correct middle game decisions quickly. Preconditions for this are understanding the theme of your opening variation, as well as being familiar with all important specific tactical combinations and with general positional concepts. Therefore, your chances of finding the correct plan and move will increase if you will play according to the theme of the opening variation, whether this be a tactical or strategical opening. 2. You will play according to the strategic requirements of the middle game position. 3. You will continuously look for tactical opportunities for yourself while also looking out for possible tactics by your opponent. 4. You will follow the correct technique in playing one positions. And 5. You will know what to do in trying to save bad positions. All of the above important matters will be presented in the following sections. Part 1. Playing according to the theme of the opening variation. I have divided this section into two separate parts. One dealing with primarily tactical openings, and a second one discussing primarily strategic openings. While it is true that opening variations in general have some of both of these elements, nevertheless, in the overwhelming number of cases, either the tactical elements or the strategic considerations are the dominant ones. A. Tactical openings. The champion tactical opening is the Sicilian defense. One of the sharpest and most important variations within it is the dragon variation. I shall be discussing middle game play arising from the Yugoslav attack in the...
The Masterclass video series covers all facets of the game, including middle game planning, tactics, positional play and pawn structures, and endgame technique. I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Mednis, famous chess author and teacher, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hello, I'm Grandmaster Mednis. I welcome you to our series of videotapes on basic principles of chess. Our goal in this series is to show how masters and grandmasters visualize the board and take control of the game at crucial moments of play. If, as you are viewing this tape, you reach a position you do not understand, remember, you can always rewind and review the key positions previously demonstrated. Novice chess players view the chessboard imperfectly and have little understanding of how the pieces interact. It is difficult for the novice to visualize how to accomplish his goals on the chessboard. But with study and perseverance, you will gradually achieve a master's vision, and the beauty of chess will become apparent. Despite their apparent simplicity, king and pawn endgames are considered by many experts to be perhaps the most difficult of all endgames. Much specific technical knowledge is required to play these endgames flawlessly. Yet, your choice of selecting the correct plan will increase markedly if you always keep in mind the following major principles. Activate your king. Since the only piece on the board is the king, the value of having an active one should be obvious. In particular, the king should strive to lead its passed pawn or pawns rather than be to the side or in the back. In clear board situations, having the opposition is of significant value. King triangulation should be used to bring about Zugzwang positions, that is, positions where neither side wants to move. The outside passed pawn is usually decisive. In miserable-looking positions, aim for a stalemate.
You are about to enter a completely different world, the world of the Kopec system. It started as a joke nearly 30 years ago, aimed at those mechanical Sicilian dragon and Najdorf players. I found that many of my young peers would memorize the first 15 or 20 moves to get good positions or even won games. It was more than an attempt to be original. The Kopec system was a practical decision. I simply don't believe that a chess game should start after 15 to 20 automatic moves. My early experiences before the Kopec system had threatened my enjoyment of chess, because I would always have to worry about which theoretical gem would be sprung on me next, and I was struggling to survive as white. However, after many years against players of all strengths and well over 100 games, I can now say that I have gained some valuable experience and insight into the subtleties of the Kopec system. In a sense, I have become booked on the Kopec system, and there is nothing more enjoyable in chess than to develop your own book lines. And now I would like to share some of that experience with you. After e4, c5, I introduce the Kopec system with 2 knight f3, and now black may choose from 2 d6, 2 e6, or 2 knight c6, and on any of these I will play 3 bishop to d3. And I believe that this is a sound move because it develops a piece, it controls the center, and it prepares to castle. However, the bishop on d3 blocks the d-pawn on d2. And there's a rule in chess which says never block your central pawns with your minor pieces. So what is the bishop doing on d3? Well, it's not going to stay there very long. White will later play c3 and then bishop to c2. And this is the main difference between the Kopec system and the King's Indian attack. White's bishop lives on c2, sometimes behind its d-pawn on d3, and often it will come out on a4 or b3, or the bishop may find activity on the b1, h7 diagonal, which may open up at any time. I believe that the bishop on c2 is better placed than the bishop on g2 and has more prospects for participating in the game from the a4, b3, or b1, h7 diagonals where it may exist. You may note that it requires white to play 3 moves to get the bishop to c2. That is, bishop to d3, bishop to c2 after c3, and only 2 moves to get the bishop to g2. The pawn move g3 and bishop to g2. But the pawn on c3 serves another purpose in that it supports white's central build-up with d4 later on. While I don't believe that the pawn on g3 helps white's position in any general way except to enable him to feed.
I'm pleased to introduce International Master Danny Kopec, internationally recognized chess teacher, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hello, I'm International Master Danny Kopec, and I would like to thank you for purchasing this video. Today's topic is pawn structures and how to play them. Once a chess player has mastered the essentials of tactics as well as basic opening and endgame concepts, notions of positional play become critical to further progress. And just what is positional play? It inevitably becomes intertwined with pawn structures. We can talk about batteries of queens and bishops on diagonals, or alignments of pieces on files and ranks, for example, doubled rooks on a file, or absolute control of a rank. But inevitably, the discussion must turn to pawns. Pawns are part and parcel to positional play. It was as early as 1749 that the French theoretician André Philidor said, "Pawns are the soul of chess." That is to say, pawns are related to nearly every aspect of a chess game. Pawn structures define a position. Pawns determine the activity of pieces, and necessary or indicated maneuvers with pawns determine the effectiveness of pieces near them. Pawns can also help effect tactics. Pawn groups often translate into space, but most importantly, the pawn structure, how pawns are grouped, defines a position. That is to say, pawns are the essence of a position. In the opening, pawn moves determine the generic structure or pattern which a game will follow. Will it be a Sicilian defense, Roy Lopez, King's Indian, Nimzo Indian, or Benoni? It is the pawn moves and pawn structure which determines what opening family a game will fall into. The piece moves, by transposition, can be played in many orders, but the pawn moves determine the nature of the opening structure that is being played. The ensuing middle game pawn structure determines where the correct play for black and white is. Is this another way of saying that chess is a completely deterministic game? That is, there is always a clear best way to proceed from any given position? Probably. But who can claim that they really know the correct or best moves in any position? No one. We can only guess based on the knowledge and experience we have. It is precisely this knowledge-based aspect of chess which makes it such an attractive and fascinating game. We make decisions, we make moves based on plans which are drawn from knowledge, experience, calculation, and intuition. Hence, the outcome of an endgame may already be decided based on the pawn structural strengths and weaknesses which a position has inherited from the opening and or middle game preceding it. The knowledge gained here about pawn structures and how to play them will add new dimensions to your view, understanding and impressions of a chess position. Pawn structures and how to play them will be presented in 3 parts. 1. Strong structures with definitions and examples. 2. Weak structures with definitions and examples. And finally, pawn structure methods with definitions and examples. Where feasible, I will present the nomenclature or language of pawn structures developed by Dr. Kopec, with a number of examples drawn from his wonderful treatise, Pawn, Power, in Chess, David McKay Publishers, 1959. It is clearly the definitive work on the subject of pawns. And now I would like to relate to you a little story. When I was about 14, I first started reading Pawn Power. It took me over a year to study this book, can you believe? And I still remember going to restaurants with my parents in New York City, such as the famous Mama Leone's restaurant, where I read and played through this book with a portable magnetic chess set, while listening to thrilling baseball pennant races between the New York Yankees and Baltimore Orioles on headphones. A little rude and nerdy, you might say. But you have to pay your dues sometime. No pain, no gain.
Part 1. Strong pawn structures. Levers defined, duos and trios, pawn chains, and passed pawns.
I believe that the single most powerful notion emphasized by Dr. Kopec is that of levers. Almost every position has its appropriate lever, including, for example, the positional lever, the attacking lever, the undermining lever, and more.
A lever is a pawn move which 1. Offers a trade of pawns, 2. Damages your opponent's pawn structure, and or 3. Improves your own.
Hello, I am International Master Danny Kopec, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to again share my chess thinking and experience with you. This video is a continuation of the concepts and methods presented in my earlier video, Pawn Structures and How to Play Them. In that video, I discussed good pawn structures, bad pawn structures, and pawn structure methods. The material presented in that video is critical for the advancement of any player to the master level and beyond. The only regret I have about the earlier video on pawn structures and how to play them was that we could not cover more opening pawn structures in the 2 hours available. How many times have you succeeded in getting your pieces developed, connecting your rooks, but discovering that your game is lacking in an active plan and in punch? You may be a 1600, 1800, or 2000 player, or even higher, but unless you know the necessary levers in a given structure and take the necessary measures to accomplish them, there is little progress you can expect. That is the purpose of this video. We will continue where we left off with pawn structures. I will present some of the most common and prevalent opening pawn structures and understanding of opening structures, the goals in terms of pawn play for each side, when they occur, and how the pieces should be positioned is essential for the proper play and conduct of the opening of a chess game and its transition to the middle game. Throughout my videos on pawn structures, you will occasionally hear me revert to terminology used by the late, great chess theoretician Dr. Hans Kopec. In his groundbreaking treatise, Pawn Power, in my opinion, the single most important concept from this monumental work is levers. A lever is a pawn move which offers an exchange of pawns and 1. Improves your pawn structure and or 2. Damages your opponent's pawn structure. As I described in our first video on pawn structures, there are many kinds of levers, including positional levers, tactical levers, attacking levers, and opening levers. Understanding the necessary levers for liberation or attacking purposes is the single most important notion for successful and strong opening play. Many people would like a formula or prescription for finding correct or good moves in the openings. Opening monographs are very popular because people want to know the right moves in a given opening. In my opinion, the emphasis for the advancing player, particularly young players seeking chess mastery, should be on opening structures, not on moves. That is to say, in chess discussions and literature, one often hears too much discussion of moves. Instead, the focus should be on opening structures and concepts related to them. A move is a short event. A plan is a much longer happening, which relates to the global thinking about what has transpired in a game, what features are present in a position, and what course of action is most appropriate. At the risk of sounding dogmatic, I will state emphatically, the pawn structure of a position dictates what the correct plan should be. This does not mean that finding the correct plan or sequence of moves which comprise a correct plan is easy. There are still many choices and possibilities for how to implement a plan. In addition, we must remember that in chess, even if you are able to find the right plan, there are many different orders in which the moves may be chosen, and this may make the difference between the correct and successful implementation of a plan and its outright failure. Throughout this video, the format for presentation of opening formations will be: 1. The structure will be presented and explained. 2. A typical sequence of opening moves to reach the structure will be presented. And 3. A sample game or game fragment will be presented employing the structure being discussed. We begin with perhaps the most classical of structures, namely the structures which can arise from double king-pawn openings. After 1 e4, e5, regardless of which particular specific opening follows, i.e. a Roy Lopez, Philidor defense, or Scotch game, or even the center game, black has essentially two choices. First, to give up the strong point square e5, which results from the Scotch game and center game, or second, to counteract white's efforts to attack his e-pawn by maintaining a strong point on e5, usually
Masterclass series.
Hello, I am International Master Danny Kopec, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to again share my chess thinking and experience with you. This video is a continuation of the concepts and methods presented in my earlier video, Pawn Structures and How to Play Them. Throughout this video, the format for presentation of opening formations will be: 1. The structure will be presented and explained. 2. A typical sequence of opening moves to reach the structure will be presented. And 3. A sample game or game fragment will be presented employing the structure being discussed. The Maraxi bind and the Marco hop.
Internationally recognized chess teacher, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hello, I am delighted to have this opportunity to share my knowledge and experience about a subject which I have been studying from a number of perspectives for many years. This video is about analysis. No, I am not going to ask you to lie down on my couch, but I will try to present specific techniques which can improve your ability to make the correct decisions in a chess game. The beauty of chess and its popular appeal largely stems from the fact that it combines elements of science, war, psychology, and art. That is, the game and its highest level play is often equated with precision, struggle, perseverance, intuition, and beauty. Mastering chess is a little bit like becoming an excellent driver. You must know how to steer, similar to positional play, how to press the gas pedal, similar to tactical play, but it often takes special experience and knowledge to combine steering, and speed in the right way to drive appropriately and safely for a given setting. That is, the ability to analyze a chess position and select the correct moves for a chess position requires an appropriate blend of tactics and positional play. This video ties together the essential ingredients presented in my first two videos and presents specific techniques to improve your methods of analysis. The video is divided into 3 parts. The first part of this video focuses on the importance of considering and recognizing the threat in any given position. The second part concentrates on assessment. That is to say, the importance of being able to correctly assess a given position statically, strategically, tactically, and dynamically. The third part presents analysis. How is it done by humans and machines? Methods of improving one's analytical skills. And in general, it illustrates how the first 2 parts, the threat, tactics, and assessment, positional play, and tactics, must be combined effectively in the process of analysis.
And this volume of his masterclass series.
Bravo, right on. Hello, I'm International Master Danny Kopec, and I would like to thank you for purchasing this videotape. I hope that you will find it pleasurable and enlightening. I relish this opportunity to share my years of knowledge and experience with you. Our goal is to give you the knowledge and techniques that you will need to enable you to visualize winning chess combinations. We've often heard it said that chess is 99% tactics. Although I do not share this view, I would agree that tactical play involves at least 50% of the considerations in most positions. I've come to believe that the ability to select a chess move, and really the best move in a given position, is based on the following 4 major considerations. 1. Tactical factors. 2. Strategical factors. 3. Specific knowledge about concepts, themes, and configurations special to the opening, middle games, and endings. And finally, 4. Bridge moves, or moves which may combine any of the 3 previous factors. So what exactly is tactical play? Tactical play can be defined as the interaction of opposing forces. It often involves checks, pins, captures, double attacks, etc. Tactical play is episodic and can be deemed to end when there are no further interactions of opposing forces. Then we can say the position is quiescent or quiet. Strategical play, on the other hand, involves long-term positional considerations, such as pawn structures and their destruction or improvement, outposting of pieces such as knights in the center where they cannot be removed, control of an open file, absolute control, diagonals, possession of them without any conflict, etc., etc. Strategical play ends when there are interactions of forces and we enter the realm of tactical play. Clearly, without an extensive array of tactical tools or methods, there are definite limitations to how far a chess player can advance. We now come to the most important definition on this tape. What exactly is a combination? A combination is a sequence of moves or chain of moves which forces a transformation of the position from a certain board state to a definable, tangible advantage. Throughout this tape, you will be seeing a few of my students who will be posing some of the most pertinent questions which have been raised to me during my years of experience with regard to tactics and combinations. My objective here is to present the tools which I feel are the essential elements for consistently finding and producing combinations in positions where they are available. Combinations can be classified to fall into 4 categories, including the mating attack, the material gain combination, the drawing combination, and the positional combination. Naturally, there are too many possibilities or combinations of pieces in chess to memorize every possible opportunity to implement or invoke a winning pattern. Nonetheless, it is very important to learn as many common patterns or configurations of pieces or formations, if you will, as possible. For it is generally accepted by those who have studied chess skill in people that such skill is based on pattern recognition, and pattern recognition alone. So, the more patterns you can routinely recognize, the more that you have in your memory, the more successful you are likely to be. My goal is to here help you learn the most relevant patterns by presenting a nomenclature, a set of standard terms and examples which will facilitate the pattern-based learning process for you. Once you are familiar with these patterns, you will find it easier to visualize winning combinations. Now we're going to look at 4 patterns where the knight and rook combine to deliver mate.
Hi, I'm Smart Chess Online columnist Irina Krush. Welcome to the Masterclass Chess video series brought to you by the World Wide Web Chess Superstore, America's leading producers of chess videos. The Masterclass video series covers all facets of the game, including middle game planning, tactics, positional play and pawn structures, and endgame technique. I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Patrick Wolff, 2-time U.S. champion, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hi, I'm Grandmaster Patrick Wolff. Thank you for buying this video, Defense and Counterattack. In this video, we will be discussing the successful defense. Now, there are 2 separate meanings that we can have for defense. The first is the idea of defense as protection of weakness. In the companion video to this one, Winning Attacks, I define an attack as the attempt to exploit a weakness. It follows, therefore, that defense is the attempt to protect or to repair a weakness. It's important for you to understand that by this definition of defense, one does not necessarily have to have a bad game in order to have to defend. Indeed, you may very well have equal or better chances. It will simply be necessary to defend accurately against your opponent's threats in order to realize the potential of your position. On the other hand, defense can also mean playing a bad position to the best of your ability. In this kind of defense, you do have a difficult game. However, this is not a reason to despair. Even bad positions can be played well, and we will see several examples of bad positions which were drawn or even won because of good play on the part of the defender. Now, I would like to take this moment to stress something that is very important. It is a myth that most chess games are won by brilliant play on the part of the winner. This is the impression we get because, after all, only the best games by grandmasters are published, and only our best games are the ones that we like to brag about to our friends. In fact, though, if you think about it, most chess games, even those of grandmasters, are lost, not won. Most of the time, a game is decided because of a mistake rather than because of a brilliant move. And many games need to have several mistakes made before the cause is hopeless. This video is about the skill of handling critical decisions well. And when you have made a mistake, it is also about hanging tough so that you can turn the tide. We will divide this video into 2 parts. First, we will discuss defense as the protection of weakness, both in general and in particular as concerns the king. In the latter part of this tape, we will move on to discuss defending a difficult position and how you can turn the tide.
Hi, I'm Smart Chess Online columnist Irina Krush. Welcome to the Masterclass Chess video series brought to you by the World Wide Web Chess Superstore, America's leading producers of chess videos. The Masterclass video series covers all facets of the game, including middle game planning, tactics, positional play and pawn structures, and endgame technique. I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Patrick Wolff, two-time U.S. champion, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hi, I'm Grandmaster Patrick Wolff. Thank you for buying this video, Winning Attacks. In this video, we are going to discuss the topic of the attack against the king. Now in chess, we often use the word attack, but without a very clear idea of what it really means. We can define an attack as an attempt to exploit a weakness. There are many, many different kinds of weaknesses in chess. Here are several examples.
Hi, I'm Smart Chess Online columnist Irina Krush. Welcome to the Masterclass Chess Video Series, brought to you by the World Wide Web Chess Superstore, America's leading producers of chess videos. The Masterclass video series covers all facets of the game, including Middlegame Planning, tactics, positional play and pawn structures, and endgame technique. I'm pleased to introduce Grandmaster Patrick Wolff, two-time U.S. champion, and this volume of his Masterclass series.
Hi, I'm Grandmaster Patrick Wolff. Thank you for buying this video, Middlegame Planning. In this video, we are going to be looking at many different positions and considering how to best form plans and how to evaluate the position. If you enjoy this video, you may want to see my other two videos, Defense and Counterattack, and How to Play Winning Attacks. Chess is basically a game about three things: judgment, planning, and tactics. Now, any discussion on chess must include tactics, which is simply the ability to calculate variations and to see candidate moves. However, nobody, not grandmasters, not computers, can possibly see everything. We all need to shorten our calculations by understanding the position, by knowing what features of the position are the most important, and by knowing what we should do to improve our position. Those are the subjects of this tape: evaluating positions and making plans in positions. We will look at many different positions. We will discuss which features of the position are the most important. And then, once we have evaluated and analyzed the positions so that we know what's going on, we will then discuss how to form plans in those positions, what we should do so that we can improve our position, which is the second subject, making plans.